Most people who get into real estate don't have a very good plan to go from part-time to full-time. So on this video, what I want to do is I want to map out for you a very detailed roadmap or blueprint to go from part-time, quitting your job full-time to $100,000 a year in revenue. All that and more coming up.
For a limited time, you can get a free copy of Jerry Norton's Quickstart Kit with everything you need to flip your first house in 30 days or less. Download it now at myquickstartkit.com.
My name is Jerry Norton. I've been a full-time real estate investor now for over 20 years. And here on my YouTube channel, I specialize in showing you how to wholesale and flip houses and achieve financial freedom along the way. Okay, now when it comes to this plan of going from part-time, quitting a job full-time to then earning a $100,000 salary, that just doesn't happen automatically. A lot of people just think somehow that's all gonna work its way out. You really need a plan to get there. And I'm gonna show you how to do it. And we're gonna break it down in really 3 different phases, and I'm gonna use the whiteboard to really illustrate how this works. Okay, so phase 1 is actually the most difficult, the hardest phase, because you're gonna keep your current job. Okay, do not quit your job. Keep that job, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna side hustle wholesale real estate, and you're gonna do it part-time, and you're gonna do it part-time and side hustle it until you replace your current income. What I mean by that is you're gonna do enough deals to equal your annual salary at your current employment for your current living expenses. So I'm gonna make an assumption that that amount is $60,000 a year, okay? Now, I'm going to use that as our base number for the rest of this video. If that number is different, then just adjust it accordingly. But let's say that currently right now you're earning $60,000 a year and that pays the bills, okay? So if we're going to side hustle phase 1, and I'm going to, just for simplicity, let's just say that each one of these phases is a year. Now it could be 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. It could be whatever it is to get through the phases. But just for simplicity, let's say that that's year 1. So in the beginning first year, phase 1 of your real estate journey, you're going to keep the full-time job and you're going to part-time side hustle wholesale real estate until you do enough deals to earn your current salary. Now, where's that money go? It goes into an account and we set it aside, and I'll explain later how that's going to work. And this is what I did when I got started. Mine at the time was $25,000. This was a little over 20 years ago. My job was paying $25,000 a year. And that's how I was supporting my family at the time. So I side hustled it before and after work, lunch break, weekends. I side hustled it, and it took me about a year to earn $25,000 in revenue, side hustling my wholesale business. All right, so what does that look like in practicality? Well, $60,000 is going to be about 6 deals if your average deal size is $10,000 each. So you're going to need to part-time side hustle, do about 6 deals to get to your current salary of $60,000. That's phase 1. Once you do that, this is where the magic happens. Now you've got an entire year of your salary set aside, and that's going to launch you into phase 2. Now, before we jump into phase 2, here's the hardest part about that phase 1. You have 0 marketing budget. Now, what that means is it means that you have to go out and transact 6 deals, 10,000 average, to get to the $60,000 replacement salary. You have to do that with no marketing budget, which means you're going to be doing free methods. Free methods include agent outreach, working with agents to find deals. It doesn't cost you anything. It's all relationship driven. I talk a lot about that here on my YouTube channel. It's going to be things like driving for dollars. Doesn't cost you anything, just your time and some gas money to drive around and look for distressed properties in your neighborhood. There's other things like JVing or bird dogging for other wholesalers or buyers. You're going to make relationships with other wholesalers. You're going to help them find buyers. That's another free method. Anything you can do that is going to be a free lead gen, that's phase 1. Why? Because you don't have a marketing budget to generate inbound leads or any other types of leads. So you're forced to then do the free methods. It's hustle season, guys. It's more time intensive, but you can do it. There's a lot of ways you can do free marketing, free lead gen that's going to get you to some deals, but it is going to be a little slower. It's going to be a little more work. It's going to be a lot more follow-up. But that's the phase you're in. That's how I started. It was all, driving around, meeting with agents, meeting with investors, calling on properties that I found that looked distressed. That was how I started in my real estate business, and that's how you're going to have to start in phase 1. Now let's move into phase 2. Now, here's what's great. We're going to quit the job now. Why? Because we have set aside an entire year of our salary. So the next year, this whole phase 2, we don't have to worry about how we're going to pay the bills. We've already done it. We've set it aside. We're going to draw from that account. We do not touch that money. We're going to draw, in this case, $5,000 a month to pay your bills. So you got a whole year set aside. Pressure's off, stress is off. Doesn't matter how much money you make in your first month or your second month or your ninth month. You're going to only live on that $60,000 salary for the entire year. I don't care if you make $1 million that year, you stay firm and you stay committed to that $60,000 a year salary. Okay, so now that that's taken care of and you can quit the job and go full time, now once you're full time, what I find is you quadruple typically your efforts from part time to full time. But let's just assume that you double, okay, just to keep this really simple and clear. So in year 2 or phase 2, we're going to be full time now and we're going to double your annual revenue to $120,000. Again, you got all the time now. You don't have a job holding you back. You don't have those restrictions of the side hustle. It's now your full-time hustle. So every day you can go at your business and work at it really hard. Now, doubling your income in this case is going to be $120,000. Now remember, that $120,000 is new revenue. We're not drawing from that to pay our bills because we did that in phase 1. We set that aside. So here's how that $120,000 breaks down. What do you do with that revenue? Well, again, we're going to plan for phase 3. We're going to plan for next year. All of this has to be methodical, guys. It just doesn't happen. You have to have a really good plan. So what's that look like? That means your first $60,000 in phase 2, your goal is to make $120,000. The first $60,000 of that, what does that do? It gets set aside into phase 3 next year. It gets set aside for phase 3 salary. Okay, so this year I'm worrying about how I'm going to take a paycheck next year. So the first $60,000 is going to go to your phase 3 salary. Once you've made that first $60,000, that's set aside. Now you don't got to worry about next year or phase 3, and you can get back to work. What about the second $60,000? Well, here's how I break this down. You're going to want to set aside about $15,000 in taxes and tithing. I believe in paying 10% of your take home to God. You could do that off gross or net. It's up to you. But I believe you should be paying tithing to God. That's how, all of it's his, and he's only asking for 10% back. Paying that forward and paying God out of your revenue comes back, in my opinion, 100%, 1,000%. Like you're going to get so much blessings from doing that. I would budget $10,000 for coaching. You can get into a pretty decent coaching program for about 10 grand. I have one called Fast Track. It's really awesome. It's a small group. I work, every week with my students and my other coaches do. And the goal there is to really just 10x your results, really learn the things that you need to learn that are going to cut down your learning curve. You're going to avoid a lot of mistakes. You're going to learn things that would have taken you a lot longer on your own without good coaching. Okay, so I would invest in a good coaching program. You can check mine out if you go to fasttrackwithjerry.com. You can apply. It's by interview and application only. So check that out if you're interested and you're ready for that. Then you're going to put $5,000 into tools. Now, what are tools? You need a really good CRM. My CRM that I developed is called Flipster. You can go to joinflipster.com to do a free trial on that and see if you like it. But you're going to want to get a really good CRM to organize your business. This might be things like DocuSign or other things that are going to be really helpful for you to start to build a business. And then that's going to leave you about $30,000. Now, what do you do with that other $30,000? Guess what? That's next year, phase 3's marketing budget. All along in phase 2, by the way, you're still doing free methods. You're not spending any money on marketing. So it's hustle season, man. It's go, go, go. It's going to be a lot of work because you don't have any leverage from marketing. It's all word of mouth. It's all referral based. It's all organic lead gen, working with other investors in your market, working with agents, all of that. Still in phase 2. Again, I teach these extensively. I exhaust this education on my YouTube channel about how to do that. So you're going to do 12 deals at $10,000 each. That's $120,000. And this is the breakup. Finally, when you get to phase 3, which I'll break down in a second, you're going to go into phase 3 with a couple of cool things. You've got your salary for the entire year already set aside. You don't have to worry about that. And you have $30,000 for the whole year for marketing. That's going to come to $2,500 a month. That's how you're starting out in the beginning of phase 3 with those things already set aside, ready to go. Okay, so here's what phase 3 is going to look like. In phase 3, we're going to double our revenue again. Now remember, this time we're going into phase 3 with $2,500 a month in a marketing budget already set aside for the whole year. So what does that look like now? That looks like if we're going to double that revenue again, we want to get to $240,000 in that phase 3 or year 3. And here's what's cool about it though. Once you start to leverage marketing dollars, you're going to create a higher quality lead, hopefully. And so we're going to raise the bar on our profit per deal. So now to get $240,000, we need to average 16 deals, but instead of making $10,000 each, we want to get to $15,000 each deal. So bigger margin, takes less deals to get a lot more revenue. So 16 deals at $15,000 each is going to get us to that $240,000 gross revenue for the year. Now, how does that work? Again, you don't make it all up front, you make it as you go throughout the year. So we're going to do our buckets again. We're going to do our tranches of how we set aside this money during phase 3. So the first $75,000 is going to go to the salary. So you're giving yourself a raise. You know, you've been staying at that $60,000 for 2 years or the first 2 phases. You've earned it. You're now going to bump that up to $75,000. You're going to set aside $25,000 for taxes and tithing. You're going to set aside $15,000 again for coaching and tools. And then here's where things get really cool. You're going to set aside $60,000 now for next year, phase 4's marketing budget. That's $5,000 a month that you're building up in phase 3 to start phase 4. So you got $5,000 a month or $60,000 in marketing for the next year, phase 4. And that leaves you, out of the 240, that leaves you about $65,000. And this we're going to budget towards team. Now this could be a commission-based acquisition person as you go into phase 4. Maybe you want to bring on somebody that's going to be in commission sales. That means you're going to pay a percentage out of that $15,000 per deal. Where is it that you make every deal? It could be some admin, it could be some support, it could be some VAs, right? You're going to start to move now from the solo operator into building a team. But here's what's cool. You're not funding that growth out of new revenue. You're funding it out of the budget from the previous phase, the previous year. So that way you've got it all built out. Guys, the way that you don't go out of business, the way that you don't fail miserably is as you earn the revenue, you're going to set it aside so that you've got an entire year to cover the next phase of your growth. This is how you do this smart and strategic. And, you know, it's slow, it's steady, but it works. So now what's cool about this is, think about this. You're moving into phase 4. And what have you got in phase 4? You've got yourself a $75,000 salary that you've already set aside. So you're covered for the year. Don't got to worry about your paycheck. You've got $60,000 to cover your marketing expenses. So you got a $5,000 a month runway for the whole year going into phase 4. And you've got a budget for some team of $65,000 to start to bring on some team. So if you hire on some admin or some VAs or whatever, you don't have to be thinking, okay, the only way I can afford this person is in the revenue I make this week, next month. No, you've already got it set aside. Does that make sense? You know, leave a comment and say, Jerry, this is really strategic. This makes a lot of sense. I could see how this would really help me build the business the right way. And now as you go into phase 4, again, you want to double that revenue, right? You want to be hitting the $500,000 level. And this is where things really start to get exciting. You can see here, you know, I could map it out on the board here, but you get the idea. What you're going to do is you're going to pre-plan for the next phase. You're going to do transactions and you're going to build budgets and buckets and tranches, and you're going to set that aside so that when it's time to go into the new phase, you've got it all set aside for the growth that needs to happen. And guys, this is how, you know, at this point here, by the time you get to phase 4, you know, you give yourself another raise, you're hitting that $100,000 a year. But look how slow it was. Look how methodical it was. You know, people think that I'm just going to jump into wholesale real estate. I'm going to make $100 grand. Great. I'm going to go buy that nice car. I'm going to get a better house. I'm going to do all these things. And that's a recipe for disaster. And most people fail miserably because they don't know what it takes to really grow a business intentionally and strategically and methodically. This, although not sexy, this works. And this is a good plan. And this will really help you get there. Again, I looked at these phases, like these 4 phases that we broke down here, as maybe years. So like year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. If that's true, and it takes a year to do each of these, which is fairly reasonable, that's not really that unrealistic, then you're not even making 100 grand for 4 years in, like take home. You're not making 100 grand take home for 4 years into the business. And most people are like, 4 years, that's way too slow. I want to make it overnight. I want to make it in my first year. I want to get rich quick. And so they come into real estate, they come into wholesale real estate with really unrealistic expectations about what the business is, what it takes. This is not easy. This is going to be a lot of work, especially because in the first 2 years, you don't even have a marketing budget yet. You're still doing all the free things. You know, it's not till you hit phase 3 where you even have $2,500 a month in marketing. Year 4, you've got $5,000 a month in marketing. Okay, so like it's gonna be a slow process, but I want you to accept that as normal, make that okay. Now, you could do these phases in 6-month increments. Like you could do phase 1 in 6 months, and then now you're into phase 2. So you get to phase 4 in 2 years instead of 4 years. I get that. Some people do that. It's gonna be based on a number of things. How hard you work, what you bring to the table, meaning do you have experience? Are you good in sales? Have you already run a business before? You know, how high is your income level that you need to be at? Because if this is double to start with, all this is going to take way more work, right? Because you got to make way more revenue to even get the thing rolling. If it's less, you know, if you can live in your dad's basement and you don't have any overhead and you can do $30,000 a year, think how much faster you can do this. Okay, so it's all about that starting point, and it's all about how strategic you are about building this business from the get-go. Like I say to everybody, the hardest phase is this phase 1, because that is the side hustle. It's the part-time. You got to somehow figure out how to do deals while still maintaining a full-time job. Okay, that's the trickiest part. That's where, you know, when you get done with your 9 to 5, you start your 6 to midnight. This is the phase that most people aren't willing to do, because you have no free time, you have no social life, you have no time. You know, like all you're doing is a job and then your side hustle, and it's grueling and it's a grind. I remember that phase. It's a really tough place to be in, but you got to get through it. There's no other way around it. You can't get to these next phases if you don't get through that phase. So, you know, put in the effort, put in the work, have the foresight, have a plan like this. Readjust these numbers based on where you start, but have a plan, stick to the plan. Don't take more money than your salary you allocated for the following year. That's the screw up thing to do, and really do this the right way. Now, guys, where do you go from here, right? Like, okay, this sounds great, Jerry. Where do I start? I put together a 5-part video masterclass series. It's about 3.5 hours long. 5 videos, 3.5 hours long. And I walk through exactly how to get first deal, okay? How to get started, how to get the first deal, and then how to go on and do a couple deals a month and go on to get to that 6-figure salary. And I break it down in detail, the roadmap, the steps, everything you need to do from start to building that consistent business. And I'll give you that playlist. It's free. I'm not charging anything for this. This was a lot of effort for me to really put this together and map this out. And I'm gonna put that link right here. Click on that and go through that 5-part video masterclass series. It'll show you exactly what you need to do, and then get to work. Guys, if you found this helpful, leave a comment and say, Jerry, you're a flipping genius. I'll see you on the next video.